Hey, it's another episode of the Raising Sons podcast. And today I am interviewing a local middle high school administrator and talking to him about what his experience has been like being an administrator to an all boys middle high school, and also talking about what led him into this particular profession. And so if you are a parent and you've been considering placing your son in an all boys school, tune in and listen to what he shares about some of the advantages to being at an all boys school from his perspective. I have a son that is at an all boys high school. He was at an all boys middle school. And so there are some advantages that I've seen for him. And so let me know in the comments if this is something you've thought about or you've considered, or you're wondering what some of those advantages are after you listen to this interview. All right, let's get into it. All right, we are here with Mr. Thomas. He is an administrator at one of the local middle high schools here in Houston. Welcome, Mr. Thomas. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for the welcome. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for you to be here and for you to share your insights and your journey with us.
Okay.
So just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. So I am a 35-year-old. I'm a first year principal. I'm in the Houston area. I've been in education for this is my 11th year. I've been at the current campus for this is my first year, so it's a couple months actually. Previously, I was at another high school. I've been in high school and secondary for the last 5 years. That's me. I'm a former math teacher, former school counselor, assistant principal, associate principal.
Okay, so is this what you dreamed when you were a young boy? Did you dream about becoming a school principal?
Not at all. I originally was going to be a police officer, so it was either law enforcement, of course, a doctor, a nurse, something in the healthcare field. But I never imagined myself being working in education at a campus.
Interesting. So how did you get here?
Um, it's a funny story. Um, I graduated undergrad and I went to work for the state. My last year of undergrad, I did a internship with Child Protective Services. And after I graduated, I ended up working with CPS for about almost 2 years. I realized it wasn't for me. And I actually had a coworker that I was working with. She was completing her alternative certification through Texas Teachers, and she kind of talked to me about it. And I ended up getting the certification, uh, doing some observation, and I was just kind of thrown into it. I started at a middle school down the street from where I currently am now. And I think that it was one of the best decisions. I think being thrown in to figure it out. And actually, the students that I serve or I need group of students. And so it made me either, what is it, like just figure it out because it needed to be done. And so
Okay.
I always ask myself whether or not I would still be in education now if I hadn't had started where I started.
Hmm.
Because I don't think I would have been, I guess, prepared as I am now.
Okay. So being at a school that was, I'm going to say high risk. Would you say high risk?
Yes, high risk, high need, really huge socioeconomically disadvantaged population, predominantly Black and Brown students, inner city students. So,
Okay. So what would those students say about you now?
um, you know, I always wanted that. Now I have a couple of them that reach out. Social media is big now. So many of my students
Mhm.
have graduated. They've added me on Facebook. They reach out on Instagram. I always get a lot of positive responses. Um,
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Thomas, how you been? I never forget about the day you did this or the day you did that, or
Mhm.
you always looked out for me. So, um, and it kind of goes into why I continue to show up despite how challenging the work can be.
Okay.
Because I know it. helping someone somewhere.
Hmm. Okay, so you are an administrator at an all boys school. So why all boys?
Really, opportunity kind of presented itself. Applied and I'm here. I think one of the biggest advantages to being an all boys campus is you and this is just working with a mixed gender. You tend to get a lot of different type of problems when dealing with female students.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
there's a lot of bickering and stuff back and forth. Social media, of course, is the center of a lot of conflict now. When it comes to just, I guess, physical conflict, it tends to happen a lot more with my female students. I think here, where I am currently, there's a lot of type A personalities. Boys have
Mhm.
personalities, um, but there's not a lot of he said, she said. There's not a lot of social media being brought up into it. There's not a lot of the knickknacks. It's we're able to have conversations, resolve it, come down to find the root cause of it, and identify solutions, and kind of move on. Um, so yeah, it's a huge difference being at an all boys campus as opposed to a mixed gender. It's more tolerant.
So I was going to ask you, is this now, since you've been here for a few months, is this your preference?
Oh, definitely, I love it. It's still like we have a lot of work to do. The boys can be demanding as far as data goes. There's a lot of work we need to do as far as like academics, but um, I love it. Considering my previous campuses and where I've been, I love it.
Okay.
I
What
love
do you
it.
think is misunderstood about educating boys?
Um, I think that boys, society has a perception on just boys and young men in general, and so we're known as being the providers. We're the ones who come through when all else fails, and so there's a lot of pressure on boys, and so we come with even as an adult, we come with a lot of baggage, and with boys, we are less often those who are going to communicate effectively regarding how we're feeling, and I think that to educate young men or boys, we have to be aware of the many things that the things that we carry on our shoulders. Um, and knowing of those things better prepares you to educate and work with boys because it you may not see how to word it. A kid coming in sleep or a kid coming in out of dress code or a kid um there's so many barriers, there's so many things that this kid is dealing with, and I think you have to have the willingness to get to the bottom of it and actually have a conversation, get to know the kid, get to the root cause um to be able to um, teach him.
So that's
And,
that counselor in you that's
oh
coming
yeah, yeah,
out.
definitely, definitely. Because even in your worst students, even with the behavior problems, there's a inner person that they're hiding from you, and I think that's where once you reach that inner person, you're able to get them to do whatever it is that you want them to do, as well as get them to see the purpose in what you're coaching them to do or what you're asking of them to do, or even just the importance in education.
Okay.
It can take you, so many places.
So, I have a heart and a passion for boys, and so, I think a lot of times we forget we don't see boys as boys. We see them as like men, when they're boys. How do you? And it sounds like, well, you're a man, right? So you've been where they've been. You walked in their shoes before, and so how do we kind of change how people view boys or their expectations of boys? Not to expect less, but just to see them in a different way, or maybe even to make aware, maybe make it more aware of the barriers or the baggage that boys carry. Because you talked about pressure, but
Mhm.
that's not something that's often discussed. It's kind of like this quiet thing that's known amongst men, but it's not vocalized.
Yeah. Um, So I think that, as I mentioned, kind of like society has like this perception of who men are supposed to be, and I think that's what we carry on our shoulders. And it oftentimes is a reality for our young men, but I think we also have to do a better job as like to separate the two. And I've oftentimes had that conversation with boys when they're here at school, like, hey, I understand you have these responsibilities, but this is where you're able to be a kid. This is where you're able to, I guess, in other words, be vulnerable. This is where you're able to have those conversations or talk to someone about what you need or what you need support in. Um, and I think we have to do a better job with communicating that. And I think it's easy to ask a young man, you know, "Well, what's going on? Or are you okay?" And the common answer is going to be, yeah, I'm fine, or nothing, I'm just tired. But actually being purposeful in the conversation, like being purposeful in the questioning and what you're talking to them about, and paying attention to like who they are, how they may how their behavior, personality may change from days to days to really get to the bottom of like what's taking place, I guess, in other words.
Okay.
But I think going more in depth of, you know, what is it that you can do with to support the student as opposed to just not academically, but you know, socially, physically, what's going on outside of school.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. So your parents raised you, and I would say you are a success, right?
I,
So would you agree?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. What do you think they did right? What do you think was helpful? Like in looking back in your, childhood, what do you think your parents did right or that helped you to get to this level of success?
I think they held me accountable. I think my mom is very blunt. My mom didn't do sleepovers. She didn't do hanging out. She held me accountable to the expectations, and she called me out on it like consistently all the time. Even, to this day, I haven't heard from you. I don't do texting. You need to call me. Like these are the things that she's consistently communicating, and so goes back to just staying on me, having me not only meet the expectations but exceed the expectations, calling me out when I'm in the wrong, and just because she would always tell me there's no rule book or guidebook to being a parent, but I think just being present was the biggest piece that helped me along the way. Um, in undergrad, I went through this part to where I dropped every single course except for one.
Oh,
I dropped every single class one semester, so I was off one semester when I graduated. It took me 4.5 years, but it was my mom's expectations and the things that I knew that she expected of me that made me, in other words, figure it out. Because my plan was to drop everything and come back to Houston. Um, but it's in the back of my mind, I knew that my mom had certain expectations, and so despite whatever I was going through, however I was feeling, that I still I had a job to do. I had something I needed to get done, and that's what she sent me there for, and that's what I did. So
okay.
definitely just holding me to the expectation and calling me out when needed.
So now I know you've done a lot of mentoring, like participating in different organizations as a mentor. How, you're at an all boys school. So how important do you think it is for boys to see men showing up?
It's extremely important. If you consider a huge percentage of our population, my kids here, come from single parent households, and many of them are being raised by their mothers. And I'm a firm believer, like it truly takes a village.
Mm.
Um, and so I know that here at school, like my goal is I'm an instructional leader, so my goal is to focus on academics. And in the midst of all of those things, I know that to educate the whole kid, it takes again that community. And so the importance of it's important to have men from other organizations whether that be businesses, other mentorship organizations. We need people who look like the kids that I serve to pour into the kids. So I'm focusing on the academics. When we have students who have several different hobbies, who have different interests, who are not yet sure of things that they're interested in doing following school. And so I think bringing the community in to pour into the kids so that they know what's out there, what their options are, is big. And then it allows them to see someone who's not, in other words, a authoritative figure. So they're used to coming to the school. They have teachers who are, in other words, they would say telling them what to do. You have me as principal telling them what to do. You have, people on campus who are always, in other words, kind of giving them not necessarily orders, but they're having to follow a certain, just follow rules. Whereas when you have someone else who kind of comes in, they're able to, it's unscripted. So they're able to ask the questions that they want to ask. They're able to see these individuals that they don't normally interact with in a different setting. I think the biggest issue that I have with it is just the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell them, like, hey, I don't mind coming into the campus. I want you all coming to the campus, but I want it to be consistent. Like, if you're going to make it an every Wednesday thing, let's make it every Wednesday. But they definitely look forward to having those interactions with people once they come to the campus, and we just have to keep it going.
Keep it consistent and keep them coming in.
Yeah.
So you serve, your campus is both middle and high school.
Mhm.
So what's one challenge that you see with middle schoolers and a challenge you see with high schoolers? High school boys, middle school boys.
I think it's the engagement piece. Where high school, you'll see a lot of they want to be here, but I think just what the classroom setting looks like from middle to high is completely different. You'll have middle school students who are eagerly engaged, who want to answer questions, who want to participate, whereas whether it's interesting or not, they're all in. With high school, you really have to be able to relate what you're teaching to something that they're familiar with, or a real world, something that's taking place in the real world, something relevant to them.
Mhm.
I feel like the older, from what I've witnessed, kind of like the older they get, the not the critical thinking, but that eagerness to think more in depth about a certain situation or a subject or a topic kind of diminishes. Like, you really have to spend a huge part like planning and ensuring that you have things embedded in your lessons that are going to keep kids interested
Hmm.
with high school students.
Okay.
The only other piece is, prior to coming here, I hadn't worked with middle school students since my first 4 years in education. And it was a big adjustment that week one. I had some 6th and 7th graders who were crying after school because they didn't know what bus they rode or how they got home. And it's just different. And then,
Yes. Well, I just want to put an insert. So boys do cry in 6th and 7th grade, guys.
oh yeah. And it was like for the first week straight, they were it was one in particular. He would go to the front to the bus ramp, but his ride is in the back. And so every day he got kind of turned around. And so he's in the front FaceTiming his mom, crying. And she's like, I'm in the back. And so I would literally get him and I would say, hey, go out the back door. And so every day for the first like week, he went to the wrong part of the building and would just crying. But they do. And then they run everywhere. So as soon as the bell rings, once they hit the hallway, it's like they just take off for some reason. I don't know like where they're running to, but they just run. And you ask them why they're running, they don't know. They just run. So I think it's that transition of, in elementary they're walking in a line. In middle school,
Mhm.
bell rings and you have that, you're walking yourself to your class. And so I just think it's something with that freedom, and that they take it and have fun with it.
Well, maybe they need to get the, I call it the wiggles. Maybe they need to get the wiggles out so they run. But it's also probably that 5-minute bell. So I know when my
Yeah.
son started in 6th grade, he was, like, nervous, anxious about going from, like, one side of the building to the next, or even changing class and having to go to the bathroom, like, just figuring that out, and so he didn't have to do that before, and so running, just kinda makes you get there faster, maybe.
Yeah, because like in elementary, they went to the restroom together. So after lunch, they lined up, went in together. After everyone came out, then they went to class. Here, or in middle school, of course, it's it's all on your own. You get 5 minutes, handle your business, but you're expected to be in class at the that bell ring. So
So, with you being a man and with you having a counselor background, does that make you handle discipline differently?
I do. One thing the kids would say, I never really raised my voice. And I don't think that's from it could be both and both. It can be a male background or a counseling background and just from being a male. Um, Especially when it comes to black and brown boys. Oftentimes we're talked at instead of talked to.
Hmm.
And I really emphasize communicating effectively on campus, even when boys are in the wrong or even when we're in the wrong. Um, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. The most important piece is to acknowledge them and then to agree that there's a more appropriate way to move forward or to agree on whatever way we're going to move forward. But yeah, it does. It does. They used to call me what did they call me? The crazy whisperer. Students who are real irate, um, but I could always get them to do what I needed them to do. Hey, just come talk to me. Let's figure it out. I hadn't been cursed out a long time. And when I did get cursed out, it was from my female students. But boys, even those who, we have oftentimes those who they act out physically, aggression, like when they're upset, uh, but just bringing them back in and just teaching them to communicate like how you're feeling, why you're upset. And I always lead with, I'm not taking sides. It could be the teacher, could be you. I'm not sure. I wasn't there, but I hear you out. I hear the teacher out, and then I help come up with a solution to move forward. I never go in and point fingers. That's not me. I think there's always two. There's always
2 sides to a story.
yeah,
And I think it's awesome that you do that because that also gives the boys a voice, right? Because oftentimes, like you said, they're talked to or talked at and not
talk.
to. And so I've heard just in different settings, why are you even asking me? Because you're not gonna believe what I'm saying, or you're gonna discount what I'm saying. So why am I gonna waste time even responding? So
Yeah,
so that's good. All right.
exactly.
So I don't want to keep you, but tell us one fun fact about yourself that nobody else would know.
Um, I'm trying to a fun fact. I
Something
don't
maybe you
so
enjoy.
something I enjoy. Well, I like traveling. Um, so I travel quite a bit. Prior to my transition to administration, I used to travel a lot. I'm a tennis player. I played tennis in high school. I still like to play now from time to time. I think I'm not as in shape as I used to be, but I love to play tennis. Yeah, that's me. I think I already mentioned it, but I never planned on working in education. Even in my master's program, I was on an LPC track to get my professional counseling license, uh, and I was going to leave education. And someone convinced me to get my school counseling cert, so I went ahead and got it while I was in the program, and been in education ever since. Fell in love with it. I don't, there's definitely other things that I could do that I could make a lot more money doing, but I think it's the interactions and the impact that I know that I'm making here that's where I should be. So
That's awesome. You are definitely needed. However, you are also needed in the counseling profession. So if you ever decide to have a second career, I don't know if you got your license, I would highly encourage you to do that.
Okay, all right. Well, I've been thinking about it. But and then another thing during my practicum for my counseling cert and LPC, I had to do I had to sit in with a licensed professional counselor, like an LPC thing. And that's also where I knew that I couldn't do um professional counseling on a outside of a school.
Hmm.
Um people's problems every day. It was just it
Too
became
much.
yeah. And I think I'm more prone if I were to do it, I'd be more prone to with like the youth, maybe kids as opposed to adults. I can help kids better than I feel I can adults. So
Well, again, there's definitely a need. So if you
yeah,
ever look at a second career, you think you want to do something else,
yeah.
go ahead and get that licensure.
Okay, okay. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
But thank you for taking the time to share with us your story and how you came into where you are, and just some of the highlights that you shared about educating boys. I think it's really important. I think it's something that a conversation that we need to continue to have, and then not only have the conversation, but then do something different about how we are educating them. So I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.